Again, players back to the bench, just looking devastated, hugging each other, and openly crying.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at 10 of the scariest in-game sports incidents.
It was so crazy, and it was so loud in there with the people. At that point, nothing like that had ever been done.
For this video, we're looking at terrifying moments during competitions where fans were genuinely concerned for the safety of the athletes, and in some instances, themselves. What's the scariest moment you've seen in person during sports? Let us know below. Petr Cech and Carlo Cudicini. In October 2006, tragedy nearly struck not once but twice when Reading took on Chelsea in the Premier League. Shortly into the match, a long ball towards the Chelsea box was chased by Reading's Stephen Hunt. But before he could get there, goalkeeper Petr Cech smothered the ball.
Sailing all the way through, giving the opposite keeper Petr Cech.
However, the momentum caused Hunt's knee to thunder against the keeper's head. Cech was taken off and was found to have fractured his skull. He spent the remainder of his career wearing a protective helmet. His replacement, Carlo Cudicini, was accidentally knocked out when defending a corner in the game's final moments.
Hanneman with a run. Cudicini did brilliantly to reach that. He's still on the ground and hooked away almost off the line.
He was placed in a neck brace and stretched off, leaving defender John Terry to play in goal. Thankfully, Cudicini escaped serious injury. Mick Foley. Whenever Mick Foley wrestled under his various personas, he always gave it his all. But this was too much. Taking on The Undertaker for 1998's King of the Ring in a Hell in a Cell match, Foley as Mankind was launched from the structure and threw tables in a planned spot.
Oh my God.
Later, with the two behemoths on top of the cell, Taker chokeslammed Foley on the metal. The panel was meant to dent slightly on impact. Instead, it broke away, causing Foley to fall to the ring below. Taker thought he had ended Foley's life. Instead, he dislocated his shoulder, had a tooth knocked out, and had various other nasty injuries. Yet he still finished the match.
I believe the right foot was just kicking ever so gently to show I'm not completely out of this ball game yet.
Reggie Brown.
The injured player is Reggie Brown, Texas A&M, second-year backer of the Lions.
In December 1997, the Detroit Lions hosted the New York Jets in the final game of the regular NFL season. 23-year-old linebacker Reggie Brown, who had only been drafted in '96, attempted to make a tackle in the fourth quarter to the Jets' Adrian Morrell. Instead, Brown's head struck the back of another player, compressing his neck awkwardly. Immediately, Brown stopped moving for 17 minutes. He required CPR on the field to save his life before being rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery to fuse vertebrae. Due to the quick actions of the medical staff, Brown regained movement in his limbs during rehab. However, he never played football again. Ryan Shazier. 20 years after Brown's ordeal, another linebacker had a similar horrifying experience. With the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Cincinnati Bengals in December 2017, Ryan Shazier attempted a tackle in the first quarter. However, his head was compressed against the side of Josh Malone.
And Ryan Shazier, the leader of this Pittsburgh defense, is not getting up.
Straight away, something was wrong. Shazier held his back and attempted to move his limbs. While his arms were okay, his legs were not.
He immediately grabbed for his middle of his back, was able to roll over onto his back, but his legs really have not moved from that position since he's been on the ground.
After Shazier was taken off, he later had spinal stabilization surgery, then began a long road of recovery. But thankfully, Shazier was able to walk again. After being out a couple of years due to injury, he announced his retirement from football in September 2020.
I'm going to step away from the game for a while and see what else life has to offer. I know football will always be here for me if I need it, but right now I'm excited to explore some new challenges in different paths.
Malice at the Palace. Fighting in sports isn't unusual, but when the players take on the fans, that certainly is.
Now Artest has jumped over the scorer's table and is trying to get down to the bench. Artest is in the stands. Oh, this is awful. Fans are getting involved. Steven Jackson's in the fans. Rasheed Wallace going into the stands.
In 2004, the Indiana Pacers faced the Detroit Pistons in the NBA. With seconds left in the game, Ron Artest, now Meta Sandiford Artest, fouled Ben Wallace as he attempted a layup.
Oh, Wallace right at our chest. This has potential to be serious if they don't get between.
Wallace exploded by shoving him, causing both sets of teammates to get involved. Just when things began to calm down, a fan from the stands threw a cup towards Artest.
Now, the corner of my eye, I see it coming.
Super slow-mo. Like it just, everybody was supposed to see it. That's how slow it went.
Bam.
The small forward ran towards the fan and shoved him. However, Artest had actually attacked an innocent bystander instead of the culprit. This resulted in fans and players to start brawling, forcing the officials to end the match. Afterward, 5 Pacers and 7 fans were criminally charged for their actions.
What a disgraceful showing from the Pistons fans here.
Fabrice Muamba. In March 2012, Tottenham Hotspur took on Bolton Wanderers in the quarterfinal of the FA Cup. With the score 1-1 in the 41st minute, we almost witnessed a tragedy. Bolton midfielder Fabrice Muamba suddenly collapsed on the pitch as his heart stopped. Medical teams, plus a fan that was a cardiologist, tended to him on the pitch before rushing him to the hospital.
And if at first there was some doubt amongst some of the spectators as to the nature and seriousness of the incident, that has now evaporated.
Muamba was technically deceased for 78 minutes, until the doctors managed to get his heart going again after 15 shocks. He then had an implantable cardioverter defibrillator, or ICD, inserted.
All that has happened over the past 45 minutes or so rendered entirely redundant by what has just occurred inside White Hart Lane.
2 weeks after the incident, Muamba was released from the hospital. However, the 24-year-old retired from football shortly afterwards. In 2022, he returned to Bolton as a coach for their academy.
I'm just looking forward to it. So hopefully I can share my experience to those young lads and then give them opportunity to go forward and hopefully to become some good football as well.
Clint Malarchuk. In March 1989, Buffalo Sabres goaltender Clint Malarchuk collided with St. Louis Blues player Steve Tuttle, causing the right-winger's skate to cross Malarchuk's neck.
Here's the pass, on into the Buffalo zone. Mahar goes to the corner of the pass, and oh, wow!
Within seconds, the problem was obvious as Malarchuk fell to the ice. As he later recounted, the goaltender thought this was it. Thankfully, former combat medic turned Sabres trainer Jim Pizzatelli managed to stem the wound until the emergency services arrived. It took 300 stitches to close it, but he pulled through and was back playing within 10 days.
I think the longer you wait, the tougher it is mentally anyways, and I'm anxious.
However, the incident had evidently left a mark on Malarchuk, as he was later treated for PTSD.
That big, brave front that we put on sometimes, it is just that. I mean, I wear a mask playing goal. I think I wore a mask outside the net, too.
Monica Seles. In 1993, for the quarterfinals of the Citizen Cup in Germany, the world's #1 female tennis player Monica Seles took on Magdalena Maleva. As the 19-year-old was leading, there was a break in play, allowing the two to briefly rest. Suddenly, Günter Pache approached Seles and stabbed her in the back before being restrained by security. Luckily, the wound wasn't life-threatening, but was still serious.
I remember sitting on the bench. I was just like thinking to myself, I should change. I'm giving my opponent a little bit of too much what she liked. And then suddenly I just felt like such a hard pain, like sharp pain in me. It's like, ooh. And then I wanted to touch what's in there and I just saw blood.
As such, it was expected to take a few weeks for Seles to heal. However, the trauma from the incident resulted in her taking a 2-year hiatus from tennis. Meanwhile, Pache's reasoning behind his actions was due to his obsession with Seles' rival Steffi Graf. He was charged and only received probation for his attack. Christian Eriksen. In the delayed 2020 Euros that took place in 2021, Denmark took on Finland in their opening group game. In the 42nd minute, as Christian Eriksen received a throw-in, he suddenly collapsed. The midfielder suffered a cardiac arrest on the field. His teammates circled around him to block the view as medics got to work providing CPR and using a defibrillator. After being taken to the hospital, Eriksen was stabilized. He then had an ICD installed and began his recovery. Due to rules in Italy's Serie A with players with ICDs, Eriksson was released by Inter Milan.
He could, though, continue his career in another country where rules are different.
But in January 2022, the playmaker returned to football with England's Brentford and later signed for Manchester United. Eriksson also returned to international football in March 2022.
The only aim is to go as high as possible.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Damar Hamlin.
Today we celebrate Damar's recovery, our love for Damar, and our gratitude. Please rise and show your support as only Bills Mafia can.
In January 2023, the Buffalo Bills faced the Cincinnati Bengals. At one point, Damar Hamlin made a standard tackle on T. Higgins, who went into the safety's chest.
To midfield and lowers the shoulder for 13.
As Hamlin stood up, he then suddenly collapsed, suffering a cardiac arrest. Immediately, medical personnel was brought on and administered treatment until they could get his heart going again. Then, an ambulance arrived on the field 10 minutes later to take Hamlin to the hospital in critical condition.
Well, you can see that the ambulance is out there on the field, and they are intensely working on Damar Hamlin.
Thankfully, his status improved over the following days, and he regained consciousness. Reportedly, after communicating through writing due to a breathing tube, his first spoken words were, "Did we win?" Only 9 days after this near-tragic event, Hamlin was released from the hospital.
I had a chance to speak with one of Damar Hamlin's relatives. They are, quote, ecstatic about this news. They are so rejoicing about this news. The fact that he is finally not just out of one hospital, the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, but now the second hospital, Buffalo General Medical Center.
Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.